transport in Greater Manchester, and it's true people are waiting longer now often for those services to turn up, and then sometimes two turn up at once. That's what you get when you get a bus company running your ambulances. I agree with what you say. I mean, as Ed said in his speech, there is a role. There has always been a role for other providers. But let's show that this party believes in the public core of the NHS and be proud of that. Because that is why the staff give more of themselves to the NHS. Because, as Ed says in his speech, it's about people, not profits. And if politicians don't understand that, then we'll never understand NHS staff. So I've been sending out that message for as long as I've done this job. Let's all of us send out that message that we're proud of the public NHS and get rid of this bill which is forcing privatisation and competition. That in the end will put it on a path to complete breakup. You know, the question I would ask is, my constituents in Lee, who asked them whether they wanted their ambulances run by a bus company? Who asked your constituents, Lucy? Who asked anybody in this room did they want their ambulance services run by a bus company? They just did it. And the question I've got is, to Mr. Cameron, who gave you permission to put our National Health Service up for sale? Nobody. For your question. Can I take something on care, Ed? Because I think you asked a question that's on a lot of people's minds at the moment, particularly anybody who watched Panorama recently, or in fact struggled to watch it because it was so distressing, wasn't it? And I think that a point is coming where we just all of us have to say, how much longer are we going to see scenes like that on our TV screens and not do something about it? You know, if, as Ed says, we want to celebrate the ageing society, we've got to do much better, haven't we? You know, I'm sure you want better for your parents, I do for mine, but we should want better for everybody's parents, shouldn't we? The best that society can offer. Ed used a phrase in his party conference speech, Britain can do better than this. And I don't think that phrase is ever more apt when it comes to care of older people. We've got a report coming out later this week that's about exploitation of people who work in the care industry. Yes, there are some people who've done terrible things, but also there are people trying to do a good job who are on 0 hours contracts. 300,000 people in the care system. I would just say, if you don't have basic security in your own life, in terms of what you're going to earn from one week to the next, how can we ever expect people to pass on security to the vulnerable people they care for? I don't think that's going to happen. I honestly don't believe we can carry on sending out the message to any young person who works in our care system looking after someone else's parents is the lowest of the low. You know, the lowest calling you can answer. Lower than McDonald's because you don't even get your travel time between these horrendous 15-minute visits. We can do better than this, can't we? We must be able to do better. So that's why I'm talking, as Ed says, as an NHS for the whole person, where we use NHS to try and lift up standards in social care. And you know, we should be proud that Labour councils across the country have signed Unison's Ethical Care Charter, which is about bringing up the standards of the workforce and treating people properly who work in social care. That is a reason to vote Labour a week on Thursday, because Labour believes in better standards for all people. So thank you for your question. I mean, it's a question that's on my mind a lot, and I think we will answer that question for people as we go towards the next election to offer them a better vision of how we care for older people.
So, let me just say something about the lady who asked about mental health. And again, this is something Andy's been championing, and I have as well. It's such a false economy, these cuts to mental health. In fact, David Cameron was asked a question the other week at Prime Minister's Questions about it, and he seemed to have no answer. You know, about people having to travel 200 miles, a young person who needs a mental health bed. I mean, the idea that that's a decent thing for the health service to be doing is sort of extraordinary. And we know that if we don't deal with problems of mental health early, people will end up in hospital, not just with mental health issues, but with physical health issues as well. By the way, I think this is a responsibility on the NHS, but also for all of us. Schools, businesses, Time for Change, that's led that campaign, is all about that. But look, the whole point of what Andy's been saying is, bring these services together. Let's not have poor relations anymore, whether it's mental health or social care. And let me just say something else, just to add to this point about care for the elderly. One of the things that really stuck in my mind, talking to somebody who runs the social services department recently, he said to me, well, I had a real recruitment problem because all my staff left because a famous retail chain that I won't name increased their wages by 10p an hour, and suddenly I couldn't recruit any staff. Now, when you are competing in incredibly low-paid employment for one of the most important jobs in our country, and you have a recruitment crisis because of it, you know something's wrong. And we've got to deal with this. And as Andy says, we've got a report coming out later this week on standards in the care sector, but that we know there's a big job to do in this, and that's why Andy's been rightly championing this agenda. Let's take another round of questions. Yeah, there's a lady right at the